Hello, everyone, and welcome to this masterclass and/or workshop, I guess, about the Whole30 and the journey that I think it can provide to you. And I'm excited to share it. It's something that I absolutely love, and it's free. And I think, gosh, people say the best things in life are free. This is exactly true as it's related to the Whole30. So I'm excited. I'm going to share my screen. And we just talked about that we're going to go through the whole presentation, which by my thought will be around 35 or 40 minutes. And that would allow for many of you to, if you have questions or whatnot, that we have time to answer those. So we'll save those for the end, and Stephanie is managing the chat. So if you have a question and you want to just remind yourself to ask it, of course, you can ask it in the chat and we'll just address it at the end. So there we have it. Okay, share my screen and get this out of the way. Okay. Okay, so welcome to the Whole30 and what I call real food freedom. And if you're somebody who has struggled through your journey with food and nutrition, or maybe you're somebody who has tried it all and nothing seems to work for you. I had one client tell me that her after photos look exactly the same. She'll do these programs or regimes, and the after photos always look the same for her. It's kind of like nothing really works. Then I think you might be really interested in trying out a new eating rhythm. Notice that I did not say diet. I did not say program, regime, boot camp. I said rhythm because to me, the Whole30 is a journey. And I'm going to tonight tell you a little bit about that journey. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Kimmye Bohannon, and I'm an integrative health practitioner. I'm also a board certified holistic health coach, and all things holistic health I love. But most specifically, I love helping people in midlife really make a change to the trajectory of their health so that they can start chasing good health and live vibrantly and stop waiting on disease. So I want to share, I always like knowing where we're going. And so I like doing a what we're going to learn about today. And sometimes when we're thinking about what something is, it's easier to start by saying what it's not. So I'm going to talk to you about what the Whole30 is not, and then I'm going to talk to you what it is. And then I'm going to talk about why I believe it could be a really important journey for you to take. And notice that word journey, and how you can really elevate your body, your mind, and your spirit to this whole new level. You can gain an awareness when you're eating whole, real foods that almost is like looking at your life and your experience of life through a new lens. And that's so exciting. That's the frequency of food. And I'm not going to really go into that because I could probably make a whole masterclass on the frequency of food, and you guys wouldn't have me back because it would take too long and all the things. But food has a frequency, and we all have a frequency as vibrating beings. And so I'm going to touch a little bit on that and some tips to get you going. So if you are on a Whole30 journey, it's a very popular thing to do in January, or if you are beginning a Whole30 journey, or if you're contemplating, hey, like, would this be something that would be for me? I'm going to give you some tips and tricks to get you going. And that's what we're going to do. So every talk that I do, let me move this little guy around here, every single one, every single private coaching session I do, everything begins with this quote by Dr. Casey Means. And it's that nearly every health problem we face can be explained by how well the cells in our body are creating and using good energy. And if that is working well, then everything down the line is working well. If that's not working well, then we have a huge kind of like downline cascade of countermeasures and things happening in the body that maybe we are not the most ideal. So I want you to think about this as kind of root cause approach to your health and your well-being. But we really, really want our cells, every one of them, to be creating and using good energy. That's the key. We want that to be an easy process, because when the little energy factories in our cells, the mitochondria, when they can pull glucose up out of our bloodstream and create and use good energy, all is well in our body system. And so I also like sharing some killers of good energy. There's three biggies. One, chronic inflammation, which when you hear the word inflammation, I want you to just think, ooh, my cells are afraid of something. It's like the big bad wolf is roaming around in my body. Your cells are scared of something, and so they become inflamed. Mitochondrial dysfunction. We talked about the mitochondria. You want to think about those little energy guys in every cell. They are in every cell, and they have to work well. They have to be able to create energy for the cell, and they do that by pulling the glucose up out of the blood from the food we eat. So that needs to work well. We got to be able to use good energy. And the third thing is oxidative stress, damaging molecules that are roaming around in the body that can't really be removed from the body efficiently, because likely we've got liver stagnation or other things going on. And so those are it. These are the things that kill good energy. And remember, good energy is just how well can our cells create and make good energy for our precious body. So 3 killers of good energy. So remember that. And I want everybody here to stop for just a second. And you can type into the chat. If you're willing to admit it, I will type into the chat. I mean, can you remember a time where you just like could not stop with the food? Maybe it's the French fries. I find that people are either really salty addicts or they're sweet addicts. Maybe I'm both. I don't know. I really love Starburst. That's why they're there. And, chips, salty things I love too. So I can distinctly remember a time where you eat one piece of the Starburst, but then you just have to have another one, or you eat one chip and you have to have another one. It's this almost this frenetic, you just can't quit it. And so I can't see the chat right now, but I hope I'm not the only one that can admit that I have been there. And so I want you to think about what that felt like for a second. It's a little out of control. You know that you really shouldn't be eating 10 Starbursts, right? One would have been enough, maybe two. That maybe the whole plate of fries that you were intending to share with your friend or dinner guest was not necessary, or the whole bag of chips. And so you know this, but you just can't stop. Excuse me. And so I want you to think about that and just think about what that felt like, that kind of out of control feeling. And then I want you to think, can you remember a time where you had that frenetic, almost like out of control experience when you were eating a whole real food? So specifically, let's think, when's the last time that happened to you when you were eating some raw carrots with some sea salt, or a big salad without a lot of gunky dressing? You just tend not to do that. And so that's an interesting thing to think about, right? When we're eating real whole food, we tend not to have that driver of more. And I'm going to explain to you what that more experience is really, what really is in the body. So two really, dichotomies here. We have one set of foods that we can easily remember. Oh yeah, I did that at Halloween, or oh yeah, I love that. I could totally put down a whole bag of chips. That's me, especially if they are like tortilla chips and really salty. I love those. Okay, I could eat the whole bag. All right, but I really can't tell you the last time I ate a whole bag of carrots. I just can't. Or some sliced cucumber. I can't do that. So keep that in the back of your mind as we're thinking through and we're working through this Whole30 journey. So Whole30, I'm going to tell you first what's not, okay? Because I think there's a little bit of misconception about what it actually is and what it isn't. And so I'd like to shed some light on that for you and have you consider some new possibilities for what this program and journey really is. It is not counting calories or macro tracking. It's none of that. It's not losing weight fast. I don't know about you guys, but sometimes I want things to be speedy and easy. And the Whole30 is really not those things. And so it's not a quickie fix to any issue, symptom, problem. It's not a strict, specific eating plan. It's not that at all. It's very open, in fact. And it's not a reward-based system. So inside the Whole30, there are no cheat or flex meals inside the 30 days. The Whole30 is generally designed as a 30-day journey. It can certainly be longer, and I'm going to actually share with you how I use the Whole30 in a longer journey because that's been really helpful for me, and I want to share that with you too. I did also want to ask for people to type into the chat if you've ever done the Whole30. I would just like to know if you've done it. Of course, I can't even see it, so it's not really that big of a deal, but I would love to know, like, how many of you guys have ever thought about it? Have you ever done it? Because that's good to know also. Okay, what is the Whole30? Now, like I said, I think sometimes it's easier to explain and learn things when we learn what it's not. Okay, so what it is, it's an eating rhythm that removes potentially harmful and inflammatory foods from your diet. It's healing your nutrition from the inside out. I think the Whole30 is a journey, and it's not a sprint or a quickie program. It's a very open, expansive eating rhythm. It has no limit on the quantity of food you can eat. You can eat as much as you want on the Whole30, which I love because I love to eat. And so you can eat as much as you want on the Whole30. And I think that's very freeing for those of us who might have tried some of the more strict programs that do work, right? All programs work. If you do it, it works. It's it's that most programs can't be implemented and integrated into our life long term. Thus, they are a program and not a journey. And that's what I love about the Whole30 can be a beautiful journey. So it's very different. The Whole30 is an easy way to determine if you have food sensitivities. There are also other ways to do that. You could do a little more strict elimination diet. If you've ever had seen a functional medicine practitioner, you could do a very strict elimination diet, or you could actually have food sensitivity testing done. That's a lab test that can be done, and you can learn what foods are triggering a small immune response in your body. And that's good information to know. But you can also do it for free in the Whole30. And last but not least, and potentially the most impactful on this list, is it's a framework to heal your relationship with food. Many of us have really not the best relationship with food. We eat too fast, we eat too often, we eat in the wrong food combination. We tend to use food for pleasure and not for nourishment. Um, One way to know if you might fall into that camp or have some work to do in your eating rhythm is, do you really chew your food? Because really, the most ideal situation for us as humans, eating nourishing food, would be to chew every bite of food we put in our mouth at least 10 times. I just had dinner right before this call. I'm not sure. So we're all guilty of that. I'm not sure. I was in such a hurry that I'm not sure I really did a lot of great chewing. And so it's important because our saliva is smart, it's intelligent. Everything in our body is intelligent. And it tells our downstream digestive system what type of food is coming. Is it a protein? Is it a carbohydrate or a starch? So really important. But if we skip the chewing, then we don't get that downline benefit of improved digestion. And we tend to have, a lot of people suffer with bloating after meals. If you chew your food, that's a surefire way to lower that. So that's a way to know if you need to work on maybe your relationship with food. If you use food for dopamine and comfort, meaning you had a terrible day, so you're just going to have this huge big bag of M&Ms, we might want to consider working on, hey, how could I calm my body down and provide a sense of peace without turning to an unhealthy food choice and an unhealthy amount of food. And so there's lots of things that we can all explore. And listen, we all have work to do in that regard. And guess what? That's why I call it a journey and not this sprint or quickie program. We all have work to do on that. We can all be practicing and learning in this journey. Journeys are never perfect, right? Journeys, you learn things along the way, you have some setbacks. Think about it. If you go on a journey, not everything about your trip works out perfectly. And so the same is true when we're healing our eating rhythm and our nutrition rhythm. Okay, and I love giving you guys more information and sort of where to go to learn more about these things. So you can learn more and have the source by clicking here, and you're going to get a copy of this slide deck, I'm sure. So there you have it. And I also love this. The original tagline from the Whole30 program, way back in the dark ages of 2009, was "Let us change your life." Notice they didn't say, let me fit you into your skinny jeans or help you walk around in your bikini at the pool, or, do this like really fast, program. No, let us change your life, right? It's a journey to change your life. So I thought that was really good share. I didn't know that till today. So I learned something new. Okay, let's talk about the rules of this journey on the Whole30. There are some rules, just like when you are going on any journey, you're showing up at the airport. If you don't have your passport, you're not leaving the country. You don't get to skip the security line, right? There are rules on every journey. You have to have a bus ticket. You have to have an Amtrak ticket. There are just rules to follow. There are some rules to this journey. The first is that we're gonna spend 30 days, that's why it's called the Whole30, eating whole, real food. And another word that I want you to think about is unprocessed food, because that's an important distinction that we're going to talk about. So if it's a whole, real food, it's fair game in the Whole30. There are a couple of exceptions to that I'm going to just call out, but generally speaking, that is true. We avoid all grains. This is all of it. The quinoa, the healthier, better macro balanced grains like quinoa, buckwheat, there are lots of them, all out, no grains at all. And remember, corn is technically a grain and it is out too. Okay, no dairy products at all. No cheese, no yogurt, all of it off limits if it's a dairy product. No legumes. This is a toughie. Beans, lentils, chickpeas, peanuts, soy products, including tofu. Now, I'm going to put I wish I was jazzy enough to put a big star on the screen right now, because there is a vegetarian version of the Whole30. They did not used to have that, but now they have an official vegetarian Whole30, which allows legumes, because the lentils and the chickpeas those are great protein sources for those of us who are vegetarians and want to continue on our vegetarian journey and not have animal flesh into our eating rhythm. The Whole30 can now accommodate that. So I just thought I would point that out. But if you're doing the Whole30 OG original, you may not have beans, lentils, chickpea, peanuts, soy products, no legumes at all. No added sugar. That's sugar of any form. That includes fake sugar. So one question that, maybe like a diet soda as opposed to regular soda, that would not be compliant in the Whole30. Not even stevia, which would be a plant-based sweetener. So no sugar at all. And you can do a Google search. This can be some homework for you. Google all the names of sugar, and the list is gonna shock you. It's going to be a big old list of hidden ways that we sneak sugar into our diet. No alcohol. So no alcohol. That's the rules. No alcohol. Alcohol, while fun, is highly inflammatory for us. And remember, we are spending this food journey taking out a lot of the highly inflammatory things. Okay, no processed foods and no junk food. So even if a product is labeled Whole30 compliant, it should still be whole and minimally processed. So if it's a compliant sauce, meaning it has, let's use ketchup as an example. If it's got all Whole30 ingredients, but it's highly processed because the ingredient list is super long, then probably not the best Whole30 choice. When you are looking at sauces and things for the Whole30, they need to have very few ingredients, and every one of them you should know. And that's a good clue for you that you're avoiding a highly processed food. Okay, so those are the rules. Now, everything else is fair game. and everything else is fair game in any abundance that you want. And that's why the Whole30 to me is really a lot of food freedom. It feels very free to me. There are a lot of things to eat. So you could have, as an example, I'll give a Whole30 dinner. You could put some chicken in the crock pot and use a compliant barbecue sauce. Noble Made makes one that's minimally processed. Has no added sugar, and cook that all day and have a shredded chicken to put into a lettuce wrap. You could put it on top of a baked sweet potato. You could do all kinds of things with the chicken, and you could have fresh broccoli. You could have steamed broccoli. You could have a salad with that. So many things that you could have. Steamed carrots. That would be a beautiful Whole30 meal full of whole foods. And when we are putting whole food nutrition into our body, I also want you to think about this really important point. This is a really big one. When we are eating food that has not been processed so far past its original form, and we're eating real food that's not preserved and all these junk ingredients that have found their way into our food supply, we are using food as medicine. Period. Mic drop. Ooh. Like food is medicine. It 100% is. And the Whole30 can be a journey into you really getting into that work of using food as medicine. And so I think it is a beautiful thing for everyone to try at some point. And at the end, I'm going to show you a couple ways to try it. Okay. So we'll learn a little bit about that. Okay, there's going to be a couple stingy things that I have to tell you here that you're probably not really going to like so much. And one of them is the pancake rule and the Whole30. You can't use compliant ingredients and make something that is not a Whole30, not a whole real food. So think about that for a second. So technically, the pancake rule, it stings, is you couldn't take a grain-free flour, which there are so many of those available now, which is great, cassava flour as an example, and turn that into, with an egg and a banana, a pancake. The pancake rule is not, no pancakes are allowed on the Whole30. Therefore, you can't use ingredients to combine something that you want, because typically the thing that we're dying to recreate is a trigger food for us. Okay. So I'll give you the class A, like, number one example for me, and that is popcorn. I want to make popcorn. I want to take popcorn and air pop it with a little butter, real, but I'm making something that I know is a trigger food for me. Why? Because I might eat the whole bucket, right? And so spending 30 days without these like trigger foods is a complete revamp of how we see and view food. And that, like, as I said, is some of the biggest healing that I think the Whole30 journey has done for me, is really me understanding that overfilling my body is just as egregious as eating the wrong thing, and being able to learn that you can be nourished and satisfied and feel really good without going overboard because you're avoiding some of these common trigger foods that you love. And so that's the pancake rule, and it's a little stingy. So just know that. I know that's a little stingy. The sugar rule also stings, because I forgot that I had this slide in here, but like here's kind of some common like cheaters. You know, people think, oh, that'll be fine. It's agave. That's very highly processed and very inflammatory. So no. Brown sugar, no better than regular sugar. Coconut sugar, potentially less processed than cane sugar, still is a no. Date syrup, nope. High fructose corn syrup, obviously no. No honey, no maple syrup, no molasses, no monk fruit. Again, a good sweetener choice. No stevia, saccharin, sucralose, aspartame, erythritol, xylitol, allulose, none of it. It's a stingy rule. So the sugar rule also stings, but we want to break up with this abundance of sugar that has found its way into our food. And I also want to point out that the Whole30, because as an example, legumes are not allowed, like a bean or a legume, that doesn't mean it's an unhealthy food for us long term. It just means that those tend to be a higher allergen food and or combine as a trigger food for a lot of people. And this is designed to be very low allergen, very anti-inflammatory in nature. And so same is true with what I would say here. And these sweeteners like monk fruit. I'm not going to tell you monk fruit is not a good sweetener choice. It is, but not in the Whole30. So just wanted to point that out. Okay, so I'd like to just spend a moment sharing with you some of the things physiologically that you can experience by taking this journey. And it's a pretty extensive list. It's quite remarkable that there is a free program like the Whole30. And when you go to the Whole30 site, if you have not, it's very expansive. There's tons of support. There's tons of recipes. There's tons of help, tons of direction if you don't know where to go. And all of it's for free. And I feel like, wow, this is the best things in life are free. This is a health transformational program that's completely free. And so it can be hard if you're, trying to work on lots of things to, spend a lot of money on just another thing. Well, here you go, folks. You can make a huge change in your biology with this free program. So one of the things that we're going to do is we're going to be, when we're doing the Whole30 and we're on this journey, we're removing food components that could be triggering our immune system. And so sometimes we're eating something and our body doesn't really like it, but it doesn't produce a response like hives or, shock or shortness of breath. It's not that big of a trigger, but it's a trigger nonetheless. And so if you could just think about that trigger as like my finger going in the air, making this little fire. We're eating this food, and our body is sending an immune response. It's sending in the troops because it detects something it did not like. And so it's just and over and over and over. And ultimately, combined with lots of those responses, that's when we start seeing autoimmune issues come online. Our body starts turning in on itself. It says, "Holy moly, I don't know what to do anymore. I feel like I'm constantly under attack." And so the Whole30 removes a lot of common immune response triggers. Soy, as an example, it takes those out. Is soy an inherently bad food? It's highly sprayed, so you have to be very conscious of the quality of a soy product that you're using. But in and of itself, it's not a terrible food, but it's sometimes highly inflammatory for people, so they take that out. Blood sugar regulation and metabolic health will improve, hands down. If you have found yourself in midlife, like me, and you are lucky enough to have really good blood sugar regulation and metabolic health, you've got to pat yourself on the back. Because most of us, when we cruise into midlife and perimenopause and menopause, that goes to shit. I mean, to shit. Nothing else changes, and you're going to get a high cholesterol number. You're going to get a high hemoglobin A1C number, and you didn't do anything. You're like, wait, I didn't change anything. So what I can say is the Whole30 improves your blood sugar regulation and metabolism. And the way I want you to think back to that is that means that my cells cannot pull the glucose up out of my blood from the food I eat and use it to create good energy. That's exactly what that means. And so when we can improve that, we are helping ourselves create and use good energy. The Whole30 journey with whole food can help heal and seal your gut. The gut lining is very thin, highly permeable, and Often you might have heard leaky gut. There's a lot of gut sensitivities. And so, really getting back to using food as medicine, we can heal and seal the gut. We can calm down your immune system. Remember, this is sort of tied back to number one. I probably could have combined these. Often we have systemic inflammation. And when you're thinking about systemic inflammation, you can think about likely your immune system is turned on because you're scared, your cells are scared of something. Remember what we talked about inflammation is. And so we can calm that down when we're doing this journey of the Whole30. We can identify for free a food sensitivity test. I think is around $350 if you're doing it as an integrative functional lab, but for free. You can find out some of the foods that are causing this negative response or an unwanted symptom for you. Because after the 30 days, you can begin to add in some of those things one by one, and you can see, oh, wow, when I ate that, I got tons of bloating. I really do have a sensitivity to grain, and you can learn that about yourself. And last but not least, you will most certainly break some of those negative patterns and relationships that we all, every one of us, use with food, especially the dopamine hit. It's a really quick dopamine hit to have a handful of M&Ms. I mean, that's quick. But we learn and we grow and we evolve as a person to find different ways that light up that pleasure center in our brain outside of food. And we can, as I said, we can learn a lot about it. Okay, so remember what I told you in the beginning that, so I'm going to prove it to you if you thought I was crazy, that every health problem we face can be explained by how well the cells in our body create and use good energy. Dr. Casey Means. All right, we just learned that by taking this journey, this beautiful journey of the Whole30, that we can lower inflammation. So ding, 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 number one, killer of good energy, we're going to work on that and eradicate that in the Whole30. Mitochondrial dysfunction, we are working on that too because we're improving our blood sugar regulation and our metabolic health, and that allows those mitochondria to keep the cell wall open so that those mitochondria guys can pull the glucose out of the blood, thus keeping your blood sugar regulated, and they can create and use good energy. We're going to be lowering oxidative stress in the body, these damaging molecules, because we are not contributing to the problem by adding more processed foods into the body that the body has no clue how to deal with many of these ingredients and substances. And so all three things, all three killers of good energy, and the thing that all disease and illness leads back to, which is creating and using good energy, can be solved with a free program called the Whole30. I just think, wow, like that is, I sometimes it's kind of amazing when you think about the root cause of illness and how much power we have. We don't need someone else. Like we have all this power to solve it and to take charge of our own biology. And I think that's very exciting. So, I've done the Whole30 at least 10 times. Sometimes I've done it well, sometimes not so well. I've done it very strictly with the pancake rule in place, and I've done it not strictly and not observed the pancake rule. I've done it with cheaters, and I'm going to explain what that is, and I've done it without. And here's my sage wisdom for you as you embark on this journey, knowing what I know. View the Whole30 as I've described as a journey, not something that you want to start and stop, but rather a journey to a whole new eating rhythm for yourself, right? As opposed to saying, I'm doing the Whole30, start, stop, and going right back to where you were. I would rather you view it as, wow, I'm embarking on this beautiful journey with food to do all this amazing restoration in my body. I'm gonna start using food as medicine. I'm staying out of the doctor's office. I'm taking charge of my body. So I'm viewing this as a journey. And if you do that, the first 30 days, I recommend that you do the Whole30 exactly as designed. And that means that you observe the pancake rule, that you do not combine compliant foods to make a non-compliant food. Example, you could make a potato chip by slicing potatoes and cooking them in your air frying machine with oil on top. That is, in theory, making a potato chip. Okay, no cheaters. And cheaters are some wonderful products that I'm going to introduce you to because they are wonderful for our journey into and away from into using food as medicine and away from this inflammatory soup that is available to us. And so these cheaters, it's a really good list. And I mean, like, I love them all. But if you can skip the cheaters for the first 30 days of your journey, the cheaters make, wow, just such a beautiful second 30 days. Like you're just opened up this whole new opportunity to be able to have a chip again because it's a clean chip. And so that's my advice. Now, if your choice, if you're someone who really has been what I would call very heavily into eating lots of processed foods and you feel that kind of ripping this band-aid off and going all Whole30 is not doable for you, then absolutely use the cheaters because the result and the impact is going to be very good either way. But if you can listen to my sage wisdom about doing the first 30 days, I'll call it Whole30 straight. Like no business, like you're just locked in with the pancake rule and none of Kimmy's cheaters, then you are going to have a better long-term result, right? It's going to be more thorough and it's going to be more impactful in your biology. Okay. All right. So beyond 30 days, because remember, I like thinking the Whole30 as like not something we start and stop, but like we're just on this whole new journey and this whole new world of food is opened up to us. And so what I like to do is like I'm in the Whole30 strict right now. But in February, I'm going to open it up and I'm going to continue with the Whole30 rhythm. I'm still not going to put a bunch of gunky mucus forming cow's dairy back in my system. I'm still not going to eat a bunch of junky grains, but I am going to open it up to my cheater loves and I'm going to make my own sourdough bread again. And I'm going to tell you about that in a second. So beyond the 30 days, I love opening up my eating, but still avoiding those biggie allergen triggers like processed grains and industrial seed oil. So in the Whole30, you're going to be using olive oil or coconut oil, all of that other garbage, never to be used again. Just wipe that from your ingredient list. No vegetable oil, no grapeseed oil, no saffron, sunflower, none of that business. All marketing gimmick and it's highly inflammatory and highly disruptive to your gut microbiome. So I'm not going to add any of those back in. I'm going to stick with grain-free, but I'm going to add back in gluten-free organic oats because that is a food that I love and is a staple in my diet. It might not be for you, but that's what I do. And then I'm going to add back in sourdough because my sourdough bread has 3 ingredients. It couldn't be less processed. It's flour, a sourdough starter, water, and salt. That's it. It's such a healthy grain for us to use. And so now, if you're somebody who loves cow's dairy, okay, you can add that back in and see how your gut responds. But so many people that come to me with gut issues and they swear to me that they've got SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, or they've got leaky gut, or they've got some other sinister gut thing. No, 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 they don't have any of that. They've got a highly inflamed gut because of the foods they're eating. And once we calm that down, all of that goes away. And I also think that it is worth noting here that while I've not positioned this, and nor does the Whole30 position their program or their journey as a weight loss program, you don't meet many overweight, unhealthy looking people eating whole real food. You just don't. And what I can tell you is most of us walk around with 8 to 10 pounds, most of us, of toxic water weight. So you say to yourself, well, Kimmye, what's a toxic water weight? Well, it is water weight that your body is holding on to as inflammation. And so when we turn off the inflammation in the body, remember that's what we're doing as part of the Whole30. We're turning down the any inflammatory foods. We're just turning that off. Then our body says, oh, okay, I can let go of that. and that toxic water weight will subside. Your rings will start spinning around on your fingers. And you'll be like, wow, toxic water weight, that was a real thing, right? And toxic water weight, sometimes we can notice it in our biology, sometimes we can't. I've been doing this a while, so I can. My experience of that, and I get it from time to time, especially if the holiday season, as an example, you just feel fluffy all over. Just like if I was coming to work out with a trainer, and they asked me what I wanted to fix, whenever I have the experience of toxic water weight, I would just say, I feel fluffy all over, right? So that's the experience that I'm trying to describe. And I don't know if any of you have had that or felt that before, but that is toxic water weight. And it is also known as inflammation. So just so you know, those two things are kind of the same. Okay, so I love cheater brands and Siete, Simple Mills. Those are chips and crackers and brownies, and so you can make them. They're grain free. Coco June is one of my favorite loves. Listen, I'm 8 days away to opening up some really healthy cheater brands that I love. I'm still doing the Whole30, right? I'm going to just keep doing that. I generally do it in the first half of the year. And what I find is that every time I do it, I extend it a little longer. I just feel like there's just so much like staying power from this journey versus some program that you start or stop, like it's very strict eating program that you just track every macro and every bite. Well, then you stop doing that, it's over. See, the Whole30 has this really beautiful, like ongoing, it like keeps paying dividends long after, you've done it. And so Coco June is yogurt, great brand to put into your diet. Okay, so I also shared, I'm making sure I have time. Okay, barely. That and so I'm not going to spend a lot of time with this because I'm already 15 minutes. I just have 15 minutes left. But I want you to think about that when you heal your nutrition, you are unlocking a heightened awareness. Your emotions can kind of come online fully. Some emotions or stirrings you might not have felt in years, you can feel again when we are healing our nutrition. Noticing glimpses of brightness and lightness and other very vivid moments you may notice, like when you're working on this path of the Whole30 journey. You have a sense of life moving a little slower, and you can be aware of little things that you might have just let go by the wayside before. And I kind of call this inner time. Inner time is a little slower. We can see things a new way with a new lens. And, we have a lot of clarity and revelation to heal our spirit. This return to whole real food connects us almost with this lost part of ourselves that has never been gone, but just maybe in the background. And this flame that kind of burns within all of us that once was burning very brightly kind of gets dimmed under our modern food and our modern lives. And so it can shine brightly again. You can have a clarity and a discernment of just knowing what action to take. It's like your intuition comes online. We all have intuitive gifts, every one of us. We just maybe we're not creating conditions in our body and our life for them to really shine through. And so healing your nutrition and going on this journey of the Whole30 offers so much deep work to us as humans. And listen, we're all growing and learning. It's just part of the journey. We're all there. We're always doing it. Okay, I don't want to forget about this because this is really good. If you're gonna try the Whole30 and go on this journey, Paleo Running Mama has a lot of good recipes, and she even does a 30-day meal planner. Listen, I don't like to be boxed into a meal plan. That's not my thing, but the recipes are good. I've made a few of them. And you can look there and you can quite literally follow her and do the whole day, like the Whole30 with her stuff. And then I have a link for you for the cheaters. Like you can get them anywhere. You certainly don't have to buy from my Amazon link that probably pays me 1 cent, and I don't even know how that ever happens. And but this is one whole list, so you can at least have a link where you can see the brands that I freaking love. Lesser Evil, just all of them are so good. So if doing it with the cheaters the first time helps you do it, use the cheaters. Forget about the pancake roll, right? But if you can really just dial in that first month, do it kind of Whole30 straight and then do the cheaters, I think that's really good. Okay, when you're doing the Whole30, you want to move your body. You guys know that. I don't have to spend a lot of time on that. I think that if you drink green juice and smoothies, that sugar band-aid coming off is a whole lot better. Talk about the fastest way to, skin the cat. Like you can, um, you know, like um, in the game Shoots and Ladders, when you land on the ladder and you can go all the way up and bypass several rows. That's what you're doing when you're making organic green juice. You're basically bypassing all of those rows. It makes the Whole30 exponentially easier because we know that organic green juice can repopulate the gut microbiome and tell our brain to stop and turn off those sugar cravings much faster than we can do that with food alone because there's just such a high concentration of plant power. Okay, I'm not going to get on the juice subject either because that would be here all night. Well, regulating our nervous system when we're doing something like this, we want to be noticing when we're triggered by food and using other ways to calm ourselves down. 4-7-8 breath work is really easy. Breathe in 4 counts, hold for 7, exhale for 8. Work on detoxification because your body is doing that. It's letting go of that toxic water weight. We need good detoxification for a hormone balance. We need to be practicing good lymph drainage. We need infrared sauna if you can go. Tongue scraping. You can pick up a tongue scraper at any Walgreens, scrape your tongue. And I did show you a little graph about how detoxification works, so you can go back and look at that. Clean and tidy up your house. You're busy like really cleaning up your internal environment. And so I really am mindful when I'm doing this that I like keeping my space a little tidy, and I try maybe doing a cabinet or a section a week. And at the end of the month, I have this like really nice, tidy thing instead of having this one big job of it. So, okay, that's it. So I'm going to stop sharing and go back and see if anybody has any questions. And I barely did it, 10 minutes left. So 10 minutes for questions. If anybody has any, or if there are any in the chat, happy to answer them.
Okay, Kimmye, I have a question for you. So,
Okay.
this is something that every time I do Whole30, it kind of creeps up on me and I forget from the time before. Um,
Okay.
Talk a little bit about kind of the stages of like how you feel, like in the
Okay.
beginning, and then what that leads into.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
because you described that to me at yeah, after I had done it the first time, and it really made a lot of sense to me.
Yes. Yes. The first, this journey of the Whole30, and I think that's a really good point, that and question that you brought up can be when you first begin, your body is used to um, using fast fuel, okay? Very fast fuel because the heavily processed sugary foods, lots of carbohydrates are easy fast fuel for the body. And it's used to getting its energy source from burning glucose from the food we eat for fuel. But during the Whole30, there's going to be drastically less of that fast fuel coming in. And so there'll be some, but drastically less. As example, the carrot that we're going to eat has some carbohydrate, but nothing like nothing like the handful of Starburst or Skittles. You get me? So like just much less. A handful of raspberries, while yes, it is going to put some glucose in our system, not with the abundance that our body is used to. Okay. And so it's going to have to look for another fuel source, and that's fat for fuel. And I'd like to have everybody raise their hand. Everyone that could stand to burn some fat for fuel, raise your hand. Amen. We all could have a little fat for fuel, but that's a harder fuel source for the body to get at. And so, what happens while it's making this conversion to being what's called metabolically flexible is you feel like crap. You're probably going to feel low energy in the early days of the Whole30. You're probably going to feel like you have a little brain fog in the early days of the Whole30. You're probably going to feel very low energy. You're probably going to have a low mood because your body is working on detoxing some of this inflammation and these things that did not belong there. It's working on finding a new fuel source, which is harder for it to find and use. It will do it. And all of that can make us feel not as ideal in the beginning. But if you can make it through like day 9 or 10, you'll see a huge turning point. And the turning point that you get to make at that day 9 or 10 is well worth the sort of foggy, not feeling so good in those early days. And things like body brushing and tongue scraping and infrared sauna and moving your body all help with those early experiences that we have when our body is making that conversion. Is that what you wanted me to talk about, Stephanie?
That's a really good answer. And like that, you're right about that day 10 or 11. Like you just
Yeah.
kind of turn a corner for sure.
Yeah. Well, they
Um,
officially say day 11 and 12 are quitters days. That's it. There's an actual like, yeah, if you can get past there, you're home free.
that
You're
makes sense. That makes
Quitter's
total
Day. I'm
sense.
like, wow, that's terrible. That's absolutely terrible. And I guess I would also say that if you do the Whole30 and you go on this journey and something happens and you have a pause or a reset, what do we do? Do we just say, well, that was that. I'm back to it. Who cares? I'm just gonna like eat the bag of chips and the bag of Starburst and can I go to Graders and what else? No, we're not gonna do that. We're just gonna get right back on the horse tomorrow. Who cares? Don't be caught up in that. Turn off your monkey, just turn off the brain there and get right back on the horse tomorrow. Did that one day do any harm for you? No. So you're
Right.
going to get right back on the horse. So I want to be encouraging there to say, don't you ever quit on day 12 because you had a miscue. No, who cares? We don't count miscues around here. We count progress, right?
That's really smart. So when you start integrating foods again at the end, and from personal experience, I thought that I would want the pizza and the cookies and all the things, but I just didn't, at the end of it. And you
Right.
couldn't have told me that at the beginning, but at the end,
Right.
that's definitely true.
Right.
But when you start integrating foods back in, are there certain foods? I know some are, highly like trigger
Yeah.
foods for a lot of people, but like what do you recommend as far as integration and in what order?
Yes. I think that it is best to leave grains for last. So, cow's dairy, if that's something you want to bring back into your diet, you could test that first and see how that experience feels to you. If it feels good, okay, dairy's a go. Then you could bring back in, if you're doing the OG Whole30, meaning not the vegetarian version, you could bring back in beans, legumes, chickpeas, that category. And any discomfort? No? Okay, good to go. Then you bring back in grains. And you know, I would separate corn from the grains. So if you're going to try corn, try some tortilla chips. Any bloating, any inflammation? Okay, no, then the other grains. That's the order that I would do it. We know alcohol is inflaming for every person. So yes, we're probably all going to bring that back in from time to time, but we just know that that's an inflamer, right? And then kind of, as I said, with the Whole30 as a journey, what we want to be thinking about is, wow, like what could I, how could I upgrade things that I love? And that's one of the things that I feel like doing the Whole30 over multiple times really has given to me. And it's helped me learn how to upgrade the stuff I like. So, for instance, I love a brownie. Now I make sourdough brownie or I use a gluten-free brownie mix from King Arthur Baking. And I don't have any problem with that. And I tend not to have this like overboard experience eating it either. So I've upgraded my brownie. Does that mean I'm never going to have a brownie again? No, I've just really upgraded the quality of ingredients. And I also think we can just in our everyday eating rhythm, even if we never do the Whole30, we can be mindful of like looking at something we're getting ready to eat and if the ingredient list is really long, put it back. Put it back. This is highly processed. Put it back. Almond butter should have 2 ingredients. Almonds and sea salt. That's it. I mean, if you see this like almond butter that's got 85 ingredients, put it back on the shelf. It's not worth it. It's highly processed. If you are looking at the back of your corn tortilla chips from I can't think of Tostinos or whatever I don't know, I can't remember what the brand is right now, but the common one at the grocery. And you look on the back of it, the ingredient list can be really long. But if you look at the Siete uh, chips, the ingredients are four ingredients. They don't use an inflammatory oil, they use avocado oil. And every ingredient, you're going to know what it is. And there's probably five of them, and they taste amazing. So we've upgraded that we want to put back into our eating rhythm. We've just done an upgrade. We've done like this Whole30, revitalization of the foods we like, which I think is really powerful for us long term. There's a lot of learned long-term progress that you can get from just doing that strategy.
Oh yeah, it taught me so much about foods and
Yeah,
what to look for. Like the
yeah,
first time that I ever did it, that was just my biggest
yeah,
takeaway. And
yeah.
I've never looked at food the same since. It really reprograms you in that way. So
It does. It really does. It does. It's a game changer, and it can have, I mean, you all work in the fitness industry, so you know probably, and you've seen firsthand with your clients that all the amazing transformations we can make to our physical body, our mental health, our emotional health with moving our body and physical fitness, it's really tough to hurdle over a really poor diet. It's really hard to do that. I'm not a personal trainer, so if I'm speaking out of turn, let me know, but I can't see that possibility, how someone could hurdle over that.
I don't know that anyone can. I don't know that there's ever a situation we're very nutrition first.
Yes,
Nutrition dictates your mood, which dictates your
yes,
motivation and how hard you're like there's so many
yes,
inlets into
yes,
where it really is like the
right.
overtone of your life. So
That's right. That's right.
this is wonderful. Thank you so much, Kimmye. Thank you for all of this very valuable information.
Well, thank you for having me.
And if anyone wants to learn more, do you recommend the Whole30 website? Where should they go?
Yes. Yes, go to the Whole30 website. You don't have to pay for anything. You don't have to. This is designed to be done by everyone, anybody, anytime, any place, any notion. And quite literally, everything you need is at the Whole30 site. And if you even just Google the Whole30, like you'll find tons of professionals that are there that can guide you if you need more hands-on help. I mean, it's just so many resources available, but truth and point, you could go one place, and that's the Whole30 website and get everything that you need right there.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kimmye.
You're welcome.